A lot of people had a good day, I'm pretty sure. One person, I guess you might say, had a bumpy Waitangi is the Associate Minister of Justice, I think it is, and the Minister of Courts, Nicole McKee, who, of course, is an ACT MP and has been since 2020 and is also Ngāpuhi. And that is the iwi which kind of has control over the area where the Waitangi grounds are and where stuff happens there. And if you were to read the media, Nicole McKee was almost lynched at Waitangi this year. But she had other members of the cabinet from other political parties who gathered round her and supported her. And I thought, you know, you can have... Winston has a crack at the media and stands up there. Well, that's typical Winston. I thought the story around Nicole was, to be honest, more interesting. So we've invited her on the show this morning to have a chat with us by video link. Nicole, good morning. Thank you very much indeed for joining us on the platform.
Good morning, Sean. It's always great to be here having a chat with you.
All right. Look, what happened? Can you describe in your own words what happened? On what context were you speaking at Waitangi this year?
Yeah, so we were asked to provide 2 speakers for Waitangi, and that the first speech was to be in te reo and the second speech could be in English. This was all new for me as well, and I wasn't sure of what the protocols were, but effectively what I was told is that, well, as I was growing up, because I am Ngāpuhi, as you mentioned, Sean, but as I was growing up, I was always told that women, and well, especially within my hapu, are never allowed to be the speakers. And that's always been the case with at Waitangi as well, that you can't be the first speakers. Now, David Seymour had asked whether or not I could deliver the first speech in te reo, because he really wanted to be able to use the English-speaking part to be able to articulate his dreams and visions for what the treaty bill will provide for everybody, not just Māori, but everyone in New Zealand. So it had to go to the Waitangi Trust in Ngāpuhi to ask whether or not I was able to speak te reo on behalf of our party. But the problem was, well, it wasn't a problem, the discussion was about the fact that the te reo part was going to be through the tapu piece or the pōhere piece, and that meant that no woman had ever been able to speak during that part. So I've had people come to me and say, but Jacinda Ardern spoke, and we've had other women speak, but not during the pōhere. When they have spoken has been afterwards, after the handshaking, and when the debate really starts, and that's where other women have been given the permission.
Right to speak, yeah.
Yes, so I was given the ability to be able to do that, and it was really humbling to be able to do so. What was very nerve-wracking for me, Sean, is I don't speak te reo. I've grown up in 2 different towns that were quite different where I first started my te reo journey, and I actually got quite a hard time as a teenager for my dialect. When I was in Wellington, I got told that I spoke differently. When I went to Rotorua, where I grew up as my teenager, I got told I spoke like a cityfied Māori. So I just stopped speaking because it felt like I could not please everyone. So for me, it was a really big thing to be able to go up there and speak te reo, especially when I'd been given such a hard time about my dialect. So I practiced, but I'd only had 2 days of being able to do that, and that was during a caucus retreat. So every time we had a break, I was outside
practicing the speech,
trying to practice, get my te reo right, and also the dialect right, because it's Ngāpuhi. So when I came to actually speak, the Waitangi Trust in Ngāpuhi had sat around. Apparently there was a big discussion about me speaking, and some of the things that I heard or that were given to me were things like, well, if we've got Māori women being elected into positions of high power, why can't we let them speak? And that was part of what formed the decision to allow me to be able to stand up there and speak during that tapu or special sacred part of the pōhere. Not everybody realised that that's when I was going to speak, including some of the women that were up on the maho with me. Yeah. When I actually stood up, some of them were saying, no, you don't speak now. But that was because they were not aware.
They hadn't aware that the protocol had changed, or there'd been this sounds like quite important concession
Yes,
made
yes.
or change in the protocol. All right.
Yes.
So did some of those people voice their displeasure or surprise?
From what I understand, there was an elderly koro that was sitting on the front row of I'll call it the home side, and when I stood to speak, he stood up and started yelling at me to sit down. The heckling that I got, I don't believe was actually about what I was saying. It was more about the fact that I was up there speaking. And the heckling from the elderly gentleman was because he thought I was breaking the protocol. So he was telling me.
See, this is amazing, Nicole, because I would have said at my general consumption of news media over the weekend that you were targeted because you were an ACT MP and ACT are terrible and are trying to destroy the treaty and you're a traitor to your race and everything. But you're telling me what actually happened was somewhat more subtle and nuanced than that.
Yes. When the woman stood and started to sing, I was told that they were singing to try and drown him out. Now, not being a te reo speaker, I could just see a lot of stuff going on. And I knew I was going to get heckled. And, Sean, there was some heckling about the fact that I was ACT. There was some heckling that, you know, why should I be up there speaking? So the woman that was singing, was singing to try and drown him out. This is what I've been told.
Yeah.
I was not stopped in my speech. I actually went through my entire speech. And when my colleagues came up behind me, they came up behind me to help sing the waiata. So it was always planned that they were going to come up behind me to do that. But when I finished, when I actually concluded, then a lot more Ngāpuhi women stood up and continued to sing. And I was told that that singing was too total or to me, that they were actually proud that I had broken the barriers and created something new. What was reported by some media was that I was actually sung down. So one, I'd actually finished my speech. Two, my colleagues were getting up behind me to sing a waiata for
And
me.
that singing was in support of what you had done in terms of the protocol and a woman on the marae, rather than because you were an evil ACT person.
Yes.
Look, I am sorry on behalf of my, as I say now, former colleagues in the news media, that was so grossly misrepresented, Nicole.
I think it was easy for some journalists to be able to say, well, there was singing, there was heckling, therefore Nicole McKee was attacked like everyone else. And there was some attacking there, Sean. Not everyone was happy. And some weren't happy because I was ACT and being the first female, I guess. But it was a very little portion of it. I was actually really humbled at the support from what I would call my whanaunga, my extended family, who came and said, hey, look, you've just been given this massive opportunity. Well done, you. We're going to sing for you.